Hello and welcome to SEO Hangouts with Josh Bashinsky. I am the most Bashinsky in the world. um, Today, I'd like to talk about, I have a special thing planned. I'd like to talk about, is Google lying to us? Some of the myriad ways that they might be lying to us. I know some people are probably saying, yes, of course I do. Other people are aghast at the very notion that that's entirely possible. And this is a public hangout, so if you're watching, feel free to join. I'm going to talk a little bit about some stuff that I want to get off my chest, and then anyone else who wants to discuss can discuss. And if no one's here, then I'll just talk to myself, which would not be such an odd occurrence. It might happen. I might talk to the TV. I might talk to myself. I might talk to things that the bird behind me. I might talk to a lot of things that don't respond. So don't freak out. It's not such a weird thing. It's also just similar for my life anyway. Also, I have a cold, as you can probably tell by my voice, so I'm all on a medication, so I might just drift off and fall asleep for 5 minutes, and you can watch that on YouTube for 5 minutes, me sleeping, that kind of thing. Anyway, so, and people will come in and probably join, or not, whatever, and if they do, we'll say hi. If they don't, then I won't. So there's a couple things I want to talk about in particular. There's been a lot of stuff going on with Panda, or rumors of Panda. In other words, there's been a lot of stuff that's not been going on with Panda, and this is kind of freaking everybody out. And also, of course, there's been huge bombshells dropped regarding the FTC case against Google that was done in 2011, 2012. Some of those documents have been leaked as to what the FTC committee found, or at least half of them found, and it's not looking too good for Google. And so I'd like to go through some of the commentary of that and show some things are very interesting that Google has done or is doing, and we'll discuss like that. So, and also Ruben is here, but he said he's having some trouble, so hopefully he gets his microphone if he wants to join in or not, or he can just sit there. It could be like Higgins to my Jimmy fan. Without saying anything, though, and no fart jokes either, please. Okay, so here's the deal with Panda and Penguin. The deal is that it hasn't run for, or people are saying it hasn't run, or Google has said it hasn't run. Barry Schwartz, a well-known SEO personage, has said it hasn't run for well over 6 months now. And I don't know if that is the case, and I don't see how that could be the case. And let me build you my case. Let me build a case as to why I think this is, and why I think Google is lying to us, and why I think, in fact, it is now their modus operandi to blatantly lie to us. Before, they would just give us half-truths or choose their words very carefully. Now I think they're blatantly lying to us. And let me build my case as to why I think this is. So the last time Panda 4.1 was released officially was October. Or thereabouts. It was released in September, and then they admitted they made a 4.2 kind of update in October. And contrary to some belief I just read online, the last time Penguin was run and Google admitted it was December of last year. So as far as we know officially, that is, hello Lucas, that is the last time when these things officially ran. But I don't know if this is actually a case where we can trust that. So let me tell you the reasons why. Around the same time when Panda and Penguin came out, I don't know if you remember, but John Mueller had a number of hangouts in which I asked him point blank, are you going to keep announcing when these things roll out? Are they going to be baked into the algorithm? They're going to run unannounced? And he was saying very strongly at the time that, I don't know if we're going to announce it anymore. These things are just going to be baked in the algorithm. They're going to move to an unannounced rolling state. That's what he said in the end of 2014. Then, in the end of 2014, moving into 2015, John Mueller mysteriously stopped answering questions about Panda and Penguin. He just, I don't know what's going on, blah, blah, I don't know what we're doing there. That's the kind of thing he said. Hi, Gary. I'm building my case as to why I think Google might be lying to us on Panda and Penguin. Bear with me. Then I asked him regarding payday loans, how does that work? And he admitted to me a surprising bombshell. He fully admitted, and I quote, "It is entirely possible," end quote, entirely possible that they do release Penguin without announcing it. And he said it to me in a way like a, It's like we have, Josh, we have released Penguin without announcing it. He said it's entirely possible, he said. So that was about as strong as an admission from Google as you're going to get, quite frankly, right? Then in 2015, webmasters are seeing plenty of ranking flux. Like it still looks like there's major algorithms running, but they're not announcing anything. And even Barry asks them what is going on, and at the time, Google denies that it's Penguin or Panda that's going on, right? Barry wrote about it. There's a major ranking flux, and Google denies it was either Penguin or Panda. Okay. But then at SMX West, bear with me. But then at SMX West, Gary Isles, who is another Google employee, a programmer, in fact, he does some programming work, but I believe he also works in the Webmaster Trends office with John Mueller. He admits at SMX West, kind of in passing, that Panda is running in real time. Now, everybody freaks out when he says, after SMX West this year, that Panda is running in real time. This was in March, I believe. And so then we asked John Mueller about it, and John Mueller is a little bit confused, but he does confirm that some Panda data is now, and I quote, being put into the algo faster, end quote. So that's what Gary might have been talking about there. So he admits some quality data or some Panda-like data is now being put into the algo faster in more or less real time, in near real time, thus confirming what Gary Isles said. And Gary Isles said, I repeat, Panda, quote unquote, Panda is running in real time. But then before they've said that Panda hasn't run. Now it's running in real time, right? And John Mueller confirms something that he said something Panda-like is running in real time. So this suggests, if this is the case, if Panda is running in real time, then just imagine how this will work, right? Remember, for years, and I mean years, Panda was running monthly, with a monthly push. It would take, Matt Cutts told us in 2013, Panda would run every month. There would be an industry-wide shakeup. It would hit X% of a bunch of sites at the same time. They would collect the data for a month, then they'd push go, and it would demote based on those signals. And that would happen pretty much every month for well over a year and a half. This has happened. That's how A, important Panda was to their operations, and B, that's how you could tell it was Panda, because a bunch of people would get hit, and they seem to have the same kind of quality, thin content kind of issues. Now, so now if Panda is now running in real time, though, then that's completely changed, right? That means that we're not going to see any industry-wide shakeups anymore. If Panda is running in real time on crawl per site, just like the PageRank algorithm is running on crawl and processes signals and ranks or deranks sites, if Panda is running the exact same way in real time, that means this site might get hit on Monday, this site might get hit on or released on Tuesday. It's going to be completely random because it's based on crawl, and perhaps some people have suggested, even Googlers have suggested, as it processes other data, which I believe to be, and other people believe to be, user metric data of how well people are clicking on your site, your click-through rate, things like that. So if it is the case that Panda or something Panda-like is running in real time, that means we will not see industry-wide shakeups. And that explains why Barry hasn't seen, although Barry explains, perhaps even brags, dare I say, I love Barry, don't get me wrong, that he watches over 12 industry forums, and this is how he knows whether or not a major shakeup has occurred. One of the ways he knows. Other ways, he just asks his PR contact at Google, and that person either says yes or no. Quite often, no, unfortunately. That explains why Barry hasn't seen it, because if Panda or something Panda-like is now running in real time, we're not going to see an industry-wide shakeup. And that also explains another thing. If you remember last month, there was an industry-wide shakeup, and it looked like a bunch of low-quality sites all got hit at the same time. And so it looked like they had run Panda again. And Barry and I asked, and the answer was no, they had not run Panda again. And when we asked John Mueller, well, how do you explain this industry-wide shakeup? He gave a backtracking kind of weird answer. I wasn't at that hangout, but he gave a backtracking kind of weird answer. I don't know if you can recall that. He checked, and he said, yeah, we were confused about that, and we had to check why there was an industry-wide shakeup. And they said it's just part of our normal background fluctuations. That's now just our algorithm. It's just the ongoing state. That's the way it's going to run from now on, is what he said. And that makes perfect sense if a Panda-like algorithm is now running in real time. They were confused because a bunch of sites should not be hit at the same time. It should be completely random. Now, I can speculate as to all kinds of reasons why Panda or a Panda-like quality algorithm would hit a bunch of sites at once, because they all get crawled at once, because they're in the same niche. They all release content at the same time, and so all those sites get hit at the same time, kind of a deal. I believe it was Marcus Tolba's company, Searchmetrics, that said that it was a bunch of e-commerce sites that were hit at the same time. And if that's the case, that makes sense from a Panda perspective in some ways, because quite often they're putting new data out and they have new usage metrics. And if it's user metric based, it also makes sense, because if they're having a bad selling season, user metrics would go down and they would all get hit at the same time if that's part of Panda. Gary, I see you unmuted yourself. Did you want to jump in on my rant at this particular moment? Did you want to wait until my rant is complete?
Yeah, Josh, I was actually just going to say, wasn't there another update of some sorts? It had a new animal name as well, and it was targeting local.
News to me. If
okay, I read something last week or the week before that there was an update that was specifically targeting local, and they gave it some new animal name. I'll see if I can find something on it. But
okay. Was it April 1st you read that?
No.
Okay.
It's April Fool's Day every day with Google.
Cuts auto SEO?
Oh yeah, Pigeon. That's it. Ruben just messaged. It was Was it not Pigeon?
They could have updated They could have updated Pigeon, yeah. But
that would have affected all the localized results.
Sorry?
That would have affected all the localized results, would it not?
It could. It could. Pigeon is a local algorithm, but that big release I'm talking about, that Searchmetrics put out the thing about, that those weren't local sites. They weren't necessarily local sites. They were broad global e-commerce sites for the most part. And so the plot is thickening, right? The plot is thickening. So I'll continue with my rant. So John Mueller admits there is some algorithm that is running in real time and just part of their normal background fluctuations now, baked into the algorithm. That's the way it's going to work from now on. He said that. This is the way it's going to work from now on. I found that, I'm paraphrasing a bit, but that's essentially what he said. I found that to be a very interesting admission. Then, just a few days ago now, I'm almost done my rant, just a few days ago, April 7th, John Mueller said both that Panda and Penguin have not run since 2014, but in the same breath, he did admit that they do have quality algorithms and web spam algorithms still running on a continual basis. And he's also admitted this morning at, for me, 2 a.m. or 3 a.m., because he's in Switzerland, he admitted that even if you're hit by Penguin and Panda of last year, don't worry about it. It's almost doesn't even matter, he says, because we have quality algorithms running all the time. We have web spam algorithms running all the time. And you can still get back onto page one. You can still get your rankings back. Now, one last thing. Remember, Matt Cutts admitted to me in 2013, when I had my infamous private conversation with him at SMX West in San Jose, that Google was having massive problems with Penguin and Panda. And one of the reasons why they hadn't released Penguin so long is because of the legal issues they were having. It was a PR nightmare, and people were suing Google because they thought, because Panda attacks only low-quality sites, it was akin to slander, right? That if they were hit by Panda, therefore Google thinks they're low quality and is saying they're low quality, and/or they went onto a Google Webmaster Forum and people told them they were low quality. Those kinds of legal issues were happening. And it's also the legal issues, I will remind you, as to why they will not give us an algorithm, which John Mueller admitted. He said policy, but I know it's legal issues. Policy, legal, same thing. He admitted in this last hangout that was just, however many hours ago, that it was policy issues, it was legal issues was the reason why they can't tell you in Webmaster Tools whether you have an algorithmic demotion of the Penguin or Panda variety. So this is what I think is going on. Is Google lying to us? I think either one or two things are going on, because it doesn't make any sense. They ran Panda every single month for well over a year. It makes no sense to me that they wouldn't run it for 6 months. They still care about quality. They care about website quality now more than ever. So it makes absolutely no sense they would have no quality algorithms running. I think either Panda and Penguin are still running and they're lying to us, or Panda and Penguin have largely been replaced by other algorithms and they're now deprecated. They're now not important. That's why they haven't ran for so long, if that is truly the case. I think they have been running Penguin and just haven't been announcing it, because I have various Penguin sites that have gone up or down throughout this year, 2015. So when we ask, did Panda run, they just say nope. And the reason why they say that is because either A, it's not called Panda anymore, or Panda is not needed anymore, or B, John Mueller is just not allowed to say it anymore. They don't want to admit they're running Panda anymore because that would open themselves up to more legal liability. And either way, I think their new public relations method, before it was simply to shut their mouth or say half-truths, now I think it is to bald-faced lie, quite frankly. There's my rant. What do you guys think about that?
One thing I have to say about that, I disagree that they lie, and I don't think John ever lies. What I have experienced over 2.5 years or whatever is, if you don't ask the exact question, you will get the answer to the question you're asking. And you won't be corrected, even if everybody knows full well what you're asking. So you have to ask a far more generic question to get the answer that you're looking for. And so you would say, is something like Panda running? Is something like Penguin running? And therefore you will then get the mumbling answer to try and get around what's coming out. That happened a lot with the issues of whether negative SEO was possible. And in fact, actually, one of the big ones that always happens in the forum is, do I have a algorithmic penalty? I think it was, or do I have a Panda penalty? And there is no Panda penalty. There's a Panda algorithm. So you will always be corrected in the forum saying, no, you don't have any of these things, because you're not asking the right question.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah, so I don't think anyone's lying. I think that they're taking every opportunity that you ask the wrong question to give you the answer that you've essentially asked for.
So you think that I'm asking the wrong question and Barry's asking the wrong question. When we ask, has Panda run? When's the next time Panda is going to run? We should be asking, has Panda been deprecated? Has Panda been rolled out? And are you running new quality algorithms? And when do they run? And how do they run? And how do we protect ourselves against those?
In some respects, yeah, but I think that it has to be tied into one very clever question. Otherwise, they'll quickly get shunned to a side with a, no, this Hangout's not about this kind of, we're not talking about Penguin today, or we're not talking about, and you need one very direct, specific question that's well thought out that can be answered the right way. And I've really tried to gear my questions towards that kind of avenue over the last couple of years as well, to make sure I only get the right answers for the things I'm looking for, because I see it happen all the time.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. I completely understand what you're saying. It's very interesting. You know, there's a whole SEO of optimizing for John Mueller hangouts. I'm trying to optimize the right question said in the right way with the right tone and the right inflection. Yep. And I always find it quite hilarious, not in a mean way, but I find it quite funny how everybody goes about it, you know, how you go about asking your question, how I go about asking my question, how Joshua Bird goes about asking his question, how Baruch, you know, asks his question, and kind of this weird, like, oh, I'm not
psychology.
No offense, Baruch, but like, he plays dumb sometimes, and he's asking his question. What is it about? Like, what is it and about? You know, and just gets John Mueller to say things, you know, sometimes. So yeah, it's very interesting. Anybody who's watched these Hangouts for a long time, how everybody asks their questions. And so I understand what you're saying there, but
an additional note to that is that we've got one page that has pretty much ranked well for a very long time, and only in the last sort of week and a half or something we've actually seen a significant change. We've dropped from about 2nd place to about 5th. I'm pretty certain that the people that have gone above us haven't really done anything different. Their sites look the same, their backlinks look the same. We've done a few slight design changes over the last sort of few months, but nothing significant. And I do wonder whether or not again, that shows that there is something going on. There are some quality things, maybe Hummingbird, or something to do with the mobile stuff that's coming up. And so it's some kind of on-page viewing kind of algorithm that's looking at where the content is on the page or how people are reacting
that's
with
easy
it.
to tell. So first thing I would say is the drop in mobile traffic. So one, check that. If the drop is in mobile traffic, then you can tell it's probably something mobile related. But they said they wouldn't release that to April 21st, so I don't think that's the case.
No, ours is SERP's positions in google.co.uk, so it's not related to mobile, and I know our site's good for mobile.
Are they? I think they're releasing globally April 21st, are they not?
Yeah, but that would only be in mobile search.
Right, for mobile search, yeah.
Yeah,
so
it wouldn't
the next thing
impact.
I would say is design changes you made. Check your click-through rate. Has that changed your click-through rate? And also, has that changed your bounce back to SERP rate? Check user flow exits or user flow. The name escapes me at the moment because I'm sick and I'm on a lot of medication. But you don't want to check bounce rate in Google Analytics because that doesn't give you a proper metric. You want to check user flow and the number of exits or drops or whatever they call it in that drops, I think it is. Yeah. So that'll tell you on the starting pages, it'll tell you who's bouncing back, and you can even toggle that to organic traffic or new user traffic. If that is increased, if the bounce has been increased or your CTR has gone down, that could be a problem. One, it might not even changed on your site. It could have just your competitors did something well, and users liked them for some reason. They got more clicks, and that they've gone up, and so that could be a reflection of that. Finally, when you made your design changes, did you change your keyword density a lot? I know keyword density is a bad word, and some people would even scoff at me even mentioning it, but there's some fairly conclusive studies still out there by my friend Ted Kapitis, who's an SEO scientist as far as I'm concerned. He did some tests and he showed that keyword density does make a difference, and so if you removed all their keywords of a certain query or most of them, that might have weighed the factor, because the drop between 2 and 5 spots is a very small drop.
Yeah, when all we did was change a design, and it was over 2 months ago. So
the skin? Not the text?
None of the text, just the design, and we have pushed the content slightly further down the page, which is why the only thing I can consider is that there is Hummingbird related to that. But I was just kind of wondering, because you were talking about whether or not algorithms are running all the time and affecting things like that, and they're saying that nothing's being run. I was wondering whether or not, again, that is a Panda quality or Hummingbird related issue that proves that maybe something potentially is going on.
Oh, I know that they're still running quality algorithms. I do a lot of SEO audits, and I still have people coming to me who still have. They look like, it looks like Panda, it smells like Panda, but it's all at different times, right? And so, I see a crawl spike, there's a demotion or a promotion after the fact based on quality. They almost always have keyword stuffing, tag stuffing on their blogs. They have a crappy blog that nobody reads. Their user interface is terrible. I could tell people are bouncing from it, people are clicking away. All these different kinds of Panda things that I've been tracking for years and helping people fix for years and getting them ranking again for years, fixing these kinds of things. I know they have quality algorithms running on a regular basis. I call them Panda because I don't know what else to call them. It just might be, as you said, we're just calling it the wrong thing.
Yeah. Is it possible also, I mean, I've called John out on a lot of things about sites that are abusing their positions, doing all negative black hat kind of stuff, and they're not able to react quick enough. I wonder if it's possible that this is some sort of update rollout that allows them to actually impact sites quickly. And it could be a very positive thing for us that when there is a Panda issue or Penguin issue or whatever, that you might actually get results much quicker. You might be able to just recover from your Panda issue within days if it's running all the time as part of an algorithm.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, there is a silver lining to the cloud in that if Panda or the quality algorithms, I'm just going to call it Panda. If the quality algorithms, if Panda is running in real time now or on crawl and then on processing of user signals, then yeah, you should be able to get out of it right away. You shouldn't have to wait 6 months. Yeah. So I don't know what the old Panda that they ran would be looking at. I think they moved some user metrics and some stuff out of it, and maybe they'll keep running Panda for some old deprecated kind of things like on-page stuff. I don't know. It's impossible to say. But yeah, the upshot is that if it's running on a regular basis now, you get hit at a random time. But if you fix it, you should be able to get out fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have anything else they want to add to that? Otherwise, I'm going to move on to the FTC bombs that were dropped. Dominic or Nishit? I know Ruben has no microphone. Silence in this case means no. Okay, so that's my crazy theory. I think either way, they're lying to us. Either they're lying that Panda hasn't been replaced, or they're lying that Panda hasn't run. Personally, I think it's very sneaky. And the upshot that I want to say is that whether Panda or Penguin is running or not, they do have quality algorithms. Everyone agrees, including Google has admitted, point blank. They have quality algorithms. They have running on a regular basis, on a regular continuing basis, like a real-time basis. They have web spam algorithms running on a web spam basis. So that is going to be a problem. I think I have someone trying to chat with me here. Oh, there we go. Okay, so anyway, so now the FTC. So the FTC stuff has been leaked. I don't know who has seen what out of the FTC stuff. Back in 2011, 2012, the FTC tried to bring a case against Google, and they did resolve it. But recently, some of the findings that the FTC found, including secret Google emails, internal emails, have been leaked. And now Google maintains that it's only 50% of the report by 50% of the people. And it's quite negative against Google, of course. And so Google is kind of backtracking in that case. Well, the FTC eventually admitted we made some changes and they were satisfied. But there are still some, and they say, so it was only 50% of the people who are upset. My answer to that is, yeah, well, it was 50% of the people who are upset. Shouldn't you have 100% compliance at this point? So anyway, tying into the topic, is Google lying to us? I want to share some of these FTC things that you might not have seen. So let me share my screen here. Okay, so you should be able to see my screen. So I tweeted these things out a few days ago. That this comes from a report by this fellow here. I think their name is Bendelman. And this is some kind of high-profile consultant who works for various companies that competes with Google. So you have to realize he competes with Google. So there's a, keep that in mind when he says the stuff he says. But I read this document, and I do recommend you read it. It was highly, highly interesting. And it mentioned in particular, and it referenced in particular, a number of Google emails that were very striking and completely against what Google has been saying, part of their public relations strategy, and what Google's been saying publicly. I repeat, the internal emails, the Google internal emails from Google managers has been completely and utterly hypocritical and against what they've been saying publicly. So let me go through a few of the highlights. For example, Google chose to ignore their own quality rater assessments when the quality raters complained that there was too many Google results in the SERPs. Again, I have the reference where you can go there to see that. And this is the quote here. Rather than accept raters' assessment, competitors should remain in search results. Google changed the raters' criteria twice. I repeat, rather than accept their own quality raters' assessment that competitors should remain in search results and that Google had too many search results, Google changed the raters' criteria until they got the results that they wanted. So I find that particularly interesting. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I'll tell you one thing I find interesting that with all of these things is that when I first started speaking to John Mueller, he made it very clear that if your site doesn't have content on specific pages, get rid of them. That was something that John was very specific about. And the issue with that was that when they rolled out Google+, all the local results had very few, it had little to no information, but they outranked Yelp, they outranked all the restaurant review sites. I've got a couple of screen grabs of a little while back where they did that. And so they don't practice what they preach when it comes to them making sure that their product goes up there, because they know that when it gets used, people will go, oh, it's at the top, I better put my information in. And they use their website and their poor programs, which they're never successful with anything as far as I'm concerned, apart from their search engine. They roll these things out, and then they do it in the hope that somebody will come in. Well, the same reason we create these, or had in the past created thousands of different pages in the hope that we would get somebody landing on one of those pages, and then we could start selling advertising or doing whatever it was. That was a tactic used 5 or 10 years ago.
Still
they've
being
employed,
used now.
they've employed the same thing.
Yeah.
They've done this exactly the same thing, and you can see now from those FTC things that it's exactly what they're trying to do. They're doing the same thing with flights. The airline industry did not want them to take over what they're doing, even if they do a good job. I think it was Orbitz was the only company that out of all of the airline industry areas that got involved. And because they did, it forced everybody else to say, look, we've got no option but to kind of get involved in some way. But that's been a massive struggle. Doing the same in hotels. They're doing the same in used cars right now. I've even noticed it in the serviced office industry now, which is related to my industry, that there's some weird results showing up where they're showing listings. So they're not doing a good job, but they're forcing it on people so that hopefully they can make it work.
Right.
And they don't allow us to do the same thing.
Right. It does seem to be a bit of a double standard. Let's look at another thing here. So another issue is that another way that they've kind of been hypocritical is that was brought out in this report that I mentioned is that it was specifically mentioned by the FTC that Google disobeyed their own ranking algorithms and manually selected various search results promoting themselves. Google has said time and again that they do not manually promote or demote websites except for manual actions, that they let their own ranking algorithms rank or derank sites, including their own sites. John Mueller has said that verbatim. But now it's coming out that Google managers have told Google programmers to disobey their own ranking algorithms and manually select various search results of their own to be promoted. And here's the actual quote. Whether implemented by hand or algorithms, Google sought to put its own services first, contrary to prior claims to even-handedness. What does the peanut gallery have to say about that?
I think it's very clear that what we've seen just in recent months with a couple of people calling Google out on using do-follow anchor text links to their own products, and being called out on it is a perfect example of them doing exactly that. I can't remember who actually called them out. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Not off the top of my head. There was a lot of stuff coming out, including this one report that I'm talking about.
This was. I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah, some of the guys in John Mueller's Hangouts that showed Google that they've been doing do follow anchor it. Yeah.
Oh, in Google Plus.
Not in Google Plus, but in regular. No, just in regular on their websites. They've been promoting.
Right, in their blogs they were doing do follow links, right? And then in Google Plus they used to have do follow links as well. Yeah, so I mean we see it all over the place. It is a little bit hypocritical, if not bald-faced lies. Let's look at some of the other quotes here. Again, this is a direct quote. Google elected to show its product search regardless of the quality of that result, despite pretty terribly embarrassing failures, according to the FTC. And Google's product search service failed Google's own standard criteria for being indexed page 1. So Google's product search service failed their own quality criteria to be indexed on page 1. And finally, I thought this was the most interesting bit, and so we'll actually take a look at this here. And so this was his conclusion, the Bendelman's conclusion from that report. All in all, Google's internal discussions show a company acutely aware of its special advantage. Google could increase the chance of its new services succeeding by making them prominent. Users might dislike the changes, but Google managers were plainly willing to take actions their own raters considered undesirable in order to increase the uptake of the company's new services. Eric Schmidt denied that such tampering was possible or even logically coherent, but in fact it was widespread. So, you know, it's the same story again and again I think there's some pretty compelling evidence that Google is lying to us, both in terms of the algorithms that is going on, both in terms of what's coming out from the FTC now. What do you guys think about this? Do you guys think that the FTC has a case, or do you think that the European Union has a chance of getting the FTC case against Google, that they are anti-competitive, that they're meddling with commerce and/or business, and using unfair practices and their position to do so?
My personal opinion is nothing will happen because Google has a history of putting a lot of money towards things to delay things until a time to which everything's changed and it's no longer relevant. We're seeing that in other things that they own. I'm probably not going to mention some of the other products that they do own right now, that they're doing the same thing in other industries. They push and they delay, and to a point where potentially they've lobbied and managed to get something overturned. So they'll move into an industry in some illegal manner in some way sometimes, and just keep going in it until they're stopped. And by that time they've changed, they've lobbied in courts and done all kinds of stuff to make sure things are changed. And that's not the right way to approach things, but it gives them market edge, destroys the competition because they're losing so much business at the same time, all their competitors, that they then become the standalone product because they bullied everybody out.
Right. Michael,
So
I see you were fairly... sorry, Gary, what was that?
I was just saying I'll be quiet.
Michael, I see you were fairly outspoken in the chat. Did you want to expand on that view you have in the chat? If you have a microphone? Let's see if Michael has a microphone. Answer is maybe, yes, no. He says he's at work. Then what are you doing on here? This is probably not safe for work. Google could be watching. It's not safe for work. So yeah, I mean, so it's very interesting. The things we've seen about Panda. I don't know if Panda is still running. I don't know if it even makes sense to call Panda anymore, but it definitely seemed to have quality algorithms still running. I'm going to keep calling it Panda because I believe it is, and Gary Isles called it Panda. So whatever John Mueller denies, I still have Gary Isles going on. And this FTC stuff is very interesting as well. Michael asked, when is my TED speech? Just one quick second for a shameless plug. I am doing a TED Talk in Belfast, Ireland, in November 30th. So if you want to fly on down to Ireland, it will also be filmed, of course. And my TED Talk is on the future of Google search and ethics. So, some of these things I mentioned today could find their way in November. Yeah, November 30th. So some of these things I mentioned today could find their way into such a talk. Also, again, just very, very quickly, 1 second plug or update for those who care. Michael says they'll muzzle me by then. They can try. Damn it, I'm the werewolf with wheels. They can give it a shot. I'm still doing the documentary as well, of course. I've got tons of people who want to be interviewed, and I've already paid for the documentary out of pocket. So that's going ahead as well. We're going to be filming it in May and June, and hopefully a little bit sooner than that in Vancouver. But we're going to be filming in Vancouver, filming in Toronto, and filming in New York/New Jersey. So that's still going on as well. So hopefully I'll be able to bring some of these more of these things to light. With that being said, that's pretty much all I want to talk about today. Does anybody have anything else they want to say? Do you have any other SEO questions they want to go over, either in the chat or on voice? I'm happy to talk about it while I'm still conscious, kind of conscious.
Yeah, I'm going to send you a quick email, Josh. There's something kind of interesting related to what we were talking about, and maybe you might want to show a couple of the slides quickly. So if you talk about something else for a minute or two, I'll get it over to you.
Sure. Okay. Email me. Michael says in the chat, Google is starting to act like. Can I say this, Michael? Just give me a yes or no. He says no. He says I wouldn't. Yeah. Yes. Google is, it is really sad in many ways, and of course I'm going to touch upon this in my TED Talk. I don't want to give you my whole TED talk right now, but it is very sad. Google is starting to act increasingly autocratically, like an autocratic entity. And it's something about the internet that was special in that it was democratic in its distributed system. Based on the ARPANET of old, it's distributed. So even if one or two nodes are taken advantage of or knocked out of the network, the network retains what I like to call the purity of its openness, right? All the nodes can still talk to each other. But that all goes away if you have one autocratic access to that network, right? If you have one or two or three autocratic access to that entity, then the democratic nature of the network is reduced, if not entirely destroyed, by the fact that you have one autocratic access to it that has complete control to censor whatever they want. And that's a problem even if you agree with what they choose to censor, even if it suits your own sensibilities what they're censoring, because I would agree with some of the stuff that Google censors. Obviously, no one wants to see child pornography, for example. But you know, they make more decisions than just that, far more decisions than just that. So again, not to go over my complete TED talk or what it's going to be, but you know, that I think is a point, an interesting point that should be mentioned. So Gary, did you email me that stuff?
I did. One thing actually to add to what you were just saying there that's interesting is, you know, I think that one of the biggest failures that we're seeing at the moment relates to what I've been going through, and that is that Google's telling you don't do this, don't do that, blah, 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 blah. But at the same time, they're not giving you advice in any positive way about how to go about things the right way.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking of an analogy yesterday, and it was a bit like a drug dealer in some ways. So you do something wrong, you're dealing, and the police get you, and then they just you go to jail for however long, and then you come out, and they just put you back in with the same crowd. And there's no rehabilitation. There's no saying, you know, here's a good crowd, this is what you should be doing, this is the right way to do things. And instead you kind of end up with no other advice other than seeing what everybody else is still doing, and kind of end up falling back into your bad ways. And it's their rehabilitation process that's a failure.
Yeah. I take your point. I mean, they don't give enough actionable advice, and that is part of the problem. I mean, John Mueller even admitted in this last hangout before that that the 23 questions that everyone thinks Amit Singhal wrote, actually Matt Cutts admitted to me in private, was Matt who wrote it. Matt Cutts wrote that 23 questions and put Amit Singhal's name on it. It's very interesting why that is. I think it's because he didn't want to take the flack for it, because he liked being a rock star at these conferences and didn't want people to complain to him. Anyway, that's just my private opinion. But he did admit to me he wrote the 23 questions, and John Mueller recently admitted that those are almost completely, most of them are outdated. That again, that's a more credence for me to believe the Panda algorithm has been deprecated or changed, or they're using totally different signals now, probably all user-based. Also remember, Chrome has anywhere from 40 to 50% of the browser market these days. Think about that for a second. Chrome has 40 to 50% of the browser market. That's a very nice wide spectrum. If they want to track clicks of what people are clicking on to use as a quality signal, that's a very wide spectrum that they can aggregate up and use. So,
yeah.
So Gary, you sent me some pictures here. Unfortunately, they were not of naked ladies. I was disappointed, but they are of Google.
What I wanted you to have a look at was, it was very on point about what we were talking about, and it was, if you look at the one entitled Search Results.
Search Results. So this one here.
Yeah, what you'll see is at the top listing, this was what I'd seen a lot of and took a screen grab at the time, was that this restaurant that was local to me called Red Ginger. Now, all of a sudden, Google started, they had a page. This page that they had for them, if you actually go to the Google Plus page now, googleplus.jpg, you'll see that it's not even claimed, and it wasn't claimed at the time by that user and had no information and no reviews, yet it was the top result.
Right. So that's a clear case. Yeah, that's a clear case.
If you go back to those results, and let's have a look at who's second, third, and fourth. Those pages I've also attached. And then you tell me whether or not which page you believe was a better result for first place. Something with no reviews, or pages like Urban Spoon here that has however many results, 20 different reviews of it. We've got Dine here that has...
So wait a minute, Gary. Wait a minute, Gary. So, sorry, it took me a couple seconds to find it. So here's the search results. The first one here, the first search result here was this Google Plus listing.
Correct.
Which
no
is
reviews.
the FT page. This is pretty thin content.
Yeah.
But to play devil's advocate, if you're searching Red Ginger Vancouver, you know, you probably want the address.
Correct.
Well, that's debatable. I mean, that's the problem. It's debatable, isn't it? You might want the address, but then you said, let's look at the Yelp results. The Yelp results have 28 total reviews. Dine Here only has 11 reviews. So what is your point about the reviews?
Well, the reviews, the information, everything about these results are far more informative than Google's result.
Right.
If they wanted the address, they could have pulled that out.
Does Yelp have their address? Yep.
They all have their address, every one of them.
Yelp has the address.
And they have maps and everything.
Urban Spoon has the phone number and the address.
Yeah.
Dine Here has both the phone number and the address. Right.
And a map.
So it is a good point that the FTC did mention, why is this Google Plus listing the one coming up on top when it's, by all arguments, it's a thinner listing, it's a thin content compared to the other listings.
Yep, no reviews, no information, no nothing. There's no reason why that should be up there above it. And we saw that consistently for a long time. And I wanted to take a screenshot of that just as a perfect example to show that that is self-promotion of products that aren't deserved. And that was when I went back to what I was saying to you earlier when we were talking about the fact that the Google's pushing these products out there that don't have information in the hope that they will get them made popular, where they told us specifically don't do that to us. So they told us don't create these doorway pages just in the hope that traffic will come in and then you can make a listing out of it.
True.
They're doing exactly that with their own product.
It does seem a little hypocritical. Hi, Stetson. Stetson, did you have anything you wanted to add? Oh, I can't hear you, Stetson. You're muted.
This is so bizarre. I was literally watching your SEO video like a week ago, and I just saw that you guys are doing a Google Hangout. Yeah, yeah, mine went blank, but I am working with some friends who are just being smashed to pieces on Yelp right now, and they're seeing bad SEO based off of that. And I'm just wondering, are any of these FTC filings, I know, of course, it all relates to Panda, but I don't know, your thoughts?
So explain to me a bit more what you're seeing there. So their Yelp listing is getting trashed? Yeah,
they're in a highly competitive market in the Orange County area, and based on that, a business that's like a closed down franchise, right? All the angry employees that are like, we're angry, we were shut down, these guys suck. Their Yelp page is just getting completely bashed left and right. And the problem that they're now dealing with is that how do we go ahead and recover when somebody's just completely vandalized everything that we have, and right now Yelp is just so critical. Hi, bud. Sorry, my son just came through the door.
Oh no.
But anyway, how do you recover from that kind of thing? And yeah, just I guess hearing your thoughts on that and how this relates to the whole FTC filing would be great to kind of hear.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So there's two problems there, right? The first problem is that people use Yelp. It's a pretty popular social network, and I know whenever I'm traveling or whenever we want to go to a new restaurant, we check the Yelp reviews right away. Mm-hmm. So if there's a bunch of bad Yelp reviews, I mean, discerning readers can read between the lines and probably tell that these were paid negative comments, but not a lot of people are discerning readers. So right. It definitely can hurt a business just from the Yelp perspective, that their Yelp page has been negative Yelped, if you will. Yeah. And then, of course, if Google is using these other social platforms like Yelp or Reddit or Dig or Google Plus or what have you as a signal for ranking, either in the Panda algorithm or some quality algorithm or a standalone algorithm, whatever they're using it in, it doesn't matter. If they're using it as ranking in some way, maybe a confirmation of quality or trust, that can be a problem as well. And people have asked John Mueller that question, and I don't remember him giving a good answer to it. Basically, he said either not to worry about it, or well, you know, well, we don't use that, or don't worry about it. But he has said at other times that, you know, you want to make sure you have good reviews out there, make sure everyone thinks well of you, and you're relevant and you have a good reputation. And we do know they have the bad merchant algorithm, which they never mentioned again. They announced it in like 2013, 2012, the bad merchant algorithm, and then they never mentioned it again. And we know it hits e-commerce sites at least. It could very well hit local sites too. So yeah, it is a problem that I think you need to deal with.
I guess my thing is that in a situation where everything is so heavily dependent on ratings and reviews and you know, where you basically place that, it's just so easily, you know, taintable, yet at the same time so difficult, because Yelp constantly praises themselves based off of the fact that, you know, you can't pay for reviews. Well, you know, I don't know. It seems very one-sided, at least, and I'm glad to see that, you know, there's flack coming against them for it.
Yeah, well, I know that they have taken some flack recently because people have been spamming Yelp reviews, either positively or negatively. So again, I'm sorry I'm sick, and so I'm on too many drugs right now to remember. But I remember there was a new way you could contest bad reviews. Your friend should definitely look into that on Yelp. Another thing you can do is, of course, make sure you have good reviews on many different rating sites, like Urban Spoon or like Dine Here or like all travel sites. You know, anything that you can get a rating on, Google Plus. You can try and beg, borrow, or steal ratings on those ones to maybe in the Google rankings balance out the bad Yelp review. And so that's kind of some of the ways I would look at tackling it. But quite frankly, again, in that infamous conversation I had with Matt Cutts a couple of years ago, he told me, I asked him if they were using social signals, and he said, yeah, a little bit. But then he said, and I quote, "I refuse to clean up the spam on other people's networks," end quote. And so it sounds to me like they have been having internal discussions that they should use social signals. And remember, this is a couple of years ago now. I think they are using social signals now. Most people do. And I guess now that he's not there anymore, they decided that they were going to clean up some of the spam on some of the social signals, because that's the reason why they didn't want to use social signals, because Twitter has as much spam as, you know, Google was having a problem with earlier on. So it's at 11:53. We're doing this for 53 minutes. Like I said, I'm not feeling so well. So if anybody else has something they want to ask or talk about, by all means, let's talk about it. Otherwise, I'm going to sign off and go to bed.
One thing I was just going to quickly say was I've just been using Majestic a lot recently, and you know, the way that they actually come about whether or not a page is spam or, you know, this whole cleanup issue becomes a moot point in some aspects, really, because they attack it in a totally different way. It wouldn't surprise me if that's what's going on with Google, and that's what will eventually happen with a lot of these other review sites that have to go on signals.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're using social signals, but they're using them in a way that they can determine whether or not those pages actually have any clout to them.
Well, exactly. I mean, there's a reason why they have to use a multiplicity of signals, so that they reduce the risk of any particular signal being spammed. They relied too much on the link algorithm for too long, and then so people realized that and were just spamming it quite a bit, and which Google was perfectly fine with, by the way, for many, many years, because it gave them results that they could rank, right? They told us to make links, and we, by publishing the PageRank algorithm and at conferences saying, go and make links, and make sure you have exact match anchor text. They told us to do that, right? Verbatim. And now they realized that was a mistake, or at least it wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a mistake at the time. It's what they needed to do at the time, but now it's a mistake for them to do that. Now they need a multiplicity of signals. They need to be quiet about what signals are being used. They don't want us to catch on what signals are being used. And it protects them from spam, and it protects us from negative SEO to a minor degree, in the sense that if they're using a multiplicity of signals and someone negative SEOs us on one signal, we might still be able to rank ourselves partially on some of the other signals. So So yeah, that's the pros and cons of using multiple signals. The problem is when they start prioritizing their own results in the search results. The problem is, when, quite frankly, one plumber, all they did was talk on Facebook, and their Facebook gets spammed, or Google can't read their Facebook, and so that's the only social signal they have, and so it looks like they have no quality when if they got 1,000 followers on Facebook. I couldn't imagine a plumber who had 1,000 followers, but bear with me for the example, who are not bought. But it could be something like that. But if it's a public page, I maintain that Google can still read it, and other SEOs like Rand Fishkin, for example, from Moz, swears up and down that Google can probably still read Facebook private pages and signals as well.
Wow.
Yeah. The global impact of what Google's done in terms of bad information that created all this spun content and all this crap is all in existence only in the attempt that people wanted to game Google. The actual global impact of that is quite significant. I'd love to see somebody do some infographic and see the damage to the internet, the global warming impact, everything that's happened as a result of it. It's just absolutely enormous. It really is out of control when you think about it. The
global warming
has been done. Well, people entering capture codes. People have died sitting on a boat in China, entering capture codes.
Yeah, well, that is unfortunately true and very, very sad. I do have one statistic here for you. Here it shows the total number of websites on the internet. Here's the economic crash in 2010. Here's in 2012 the height of the spam right before they released Penguin, and here's the post Penguin and the new area of Panda number of websites. You notice which is what this author called the Google crash. You notice that the number of web pages actually noticeably went down when Google started cracking down on spam quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's both good and bad.
And one last thing, I was reading that Majestic is now the third or fourth largest data crawler in the world. Do you think they're going to come out with a search engine?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think it'd be a good idea. I think it'd be pretty foolish if they did. What would be the point?
They've got more accurate data than Google?
I doubt it. Matt Cutt said something at a conference once. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said, anybody out there who wants to make a search engine, if they think they have the money and resources to crawl the web on a daily, if not minute basis for some web pages, store it, rank it, sort it, combat the spam, and have the backbone, and I mean not in terms of courage, I mean in terms of bandwidth to do that, and to have the machinery to do that. Says if they want to give it a shot, they can go ahead and give it a try. Translation, it costs millions if not billions of dollars for them to do that. The only reason why they have $45 billion of profit, not revenue, profit every year, because they essentially have a tap into the sum totality of all of our revenue flowing through the internet. They have a sieve right into it, and it's squirting out revenue to the tune of profit to the tune of $45 billion a year, because that's the sum totality of our GDP. Not our GDP, not our gross domestic product, our global domestic product, right? Our global domestic money going through the internet. They have a sieve right in it, and so that's how they're making all. That's how
98% of that is AdWords. And if somebody else took that position, they'd just simply take over that revenue if they were to put the same kind of AdWords thing in. So it's not like they're doing anything special. They're just presenting results. And if everybody decided to leave Google tomorrow and not use a search engine, or if everybody put ad blocker on their website, that would be the end of it for them. So
well, AdSense doesn't make them much money, but AdWords sure does. You're right. You're absolutely right there. It's despite all their wonderful products, the Google self-driving car, the Google glasses, the nanotechnology that they're developing to detect cancer and things like that, despite all these wonderful products that they have, the 90%, or was it 95%? 90 to 95%. Yeah, like the vast majority of their revenue comes from AdWords on that search results page, and various other search properties. So, with that in mind, with that happy thought in mind, I'll leave you guys. Thanks again for joining me. This has been SEO Hangouts with the ranter, Josh Bashinsky, and friends. Say goodbye, everyone.
Later.
Thanks, Josh. Good chatting.
Thanks for joining, and we'll see you guys next time. Good luck in this.
Josh.